In a world lit only by melted sidewalls, in a distant river valley lies an ancient track that has become the ultimate test of a driver's courage. Hi, and thanks for joining us for Round 4 of the Missed Apex Formula 3 Challenge as we travel to the ruthless and intimidating circuit at Spa. From the brake-burning bus stop to the barrels of Pouan, from the G-inducing Radiant to the savagery of Los Source, the drivers will be pushed to their absolute limit. To get us underway today, please give a warm welcome to your commentators, Chris Stevens and Chris Catman Turner.
A very good evening and a happy new year from the Missed Apex Motorsport team, and welcome to round 4 of the Missed Apex iRacing F3 Cup from the legendary Francorchamps circuit, returning to the calendar for another night of F3 Cup action. We have seen plenty of iconic moments from this championship in the past, and I dare say we'll see a few more tonight. My name is Chris Stevens. Alongside me, back in the commentary box for the first race of 2023, is Chris Catman Turner. Chris, happy new year. How was your 2023 gone so far?
It's been awesome so far, Chris, and you know what? It's going to get even better this evening because we're back at Spa, my favourite circuit on the calendar. And as you said, it's awesome track and it produces wonderful atmosphere.
It certainly does. So let's head trackside then for the final 20 minutes of free practice. If this is the first time you're joining us for a night of F3 Cup action, we have the last 20 minutes of practice here before we go into a 10-minute open qualifying session, and then 3 races. The feature race, which will be 12 laps long and will include a mandatory pit stop, and then 2 top 20 reverse grid races, which will be 9 laps long tonight. Currently leading the standings in free practice, it is the reigning champion Danny Henny on a 2-minute 10.540, just 0.08 of a second ahead of Luca Harrison in the number 3 car. And let me tell you, over 7 kilometers, that is absolutely nothing. We have Stephen Williams in 3rd, Gregoire Gomez and Alex Smith completing the top 5 before we reach our championship leader, Kyle Power, in 6th. And Chris, what we're expecting from tonight is some proper pack racing, because the field has been incredibly tight, and we know how much these cars love a slipstream, of which there's plenty of opportunities to do around the Spa circuit.
Absolutely, Chris. I think the level of these drivers has got so high that there's very little to pick between them, even between the Hennys and the Powers and those around them. I think it's astonishing to see. And you're right, the slipstream is so powerful here. We're expecting between 4 and 5 tenths per lap if you're in the sweet spot. And that could really affect qualifying and the races.
It certainly can. And just to your point in qualifying, I think the secret to qualifying is going to be finding the slipstream, which is probably what Danny Henny here is experimenting with now, as he's tucked up behind, I believe that's Alex Smith, in front of him, the silver-rated driver, who has been on the podium, the overall podium so far this season. And we see here the slipstream in effect as he closes up towards the bus stop. But of course, if you find yourself in this situation in qualifying, then it's not going to be too ideal, because at this point he's being held up. So judging it just right is going to be crucial.
Yeah, he's got it a bit wrong this time, because as you said, he had to back out through Blanchimont, so he's definitely got to find out where that sweet spot is, and he just got it wrong this time around. But we shall see if he can. He's really harrowing him this time, though, isn't he?
This is great. I mean, Smith is putting on a real defensive masterclass here, obviously getting his elbows out and getting some practice in before the feature race.
We've had some fantastic fighting at this circuit previously, and as they come down the straight here, this is where you really can get some side-by-side action. We've had 3 or 4 cars abreast. You might even get that just now, but it might be more exciting the actual feature race, Chris. But
well, I certainly hope not. My goodness me, they're showing absolutely no quarter already, and this is just whetting my appetite, Chris, for things to come tonight. Oh dear, it's going wrong already.
Well, you say it's gone wrong already for Danny, but this is not his favourite track. We could even call it his bogey circuit, because he's not had much luck here in the past.
He's not won a race at Spa, actually. We've been running the F3 Cup here for 2 seasons, and in the 6 races that we've had here, of course, two events with 3 races each. He's not won a single one of them, but Kyle Power has won 2 of the feature races, and this would make it his best circuit, and both times with some last lap drama.
Absolutely, and that's what I love about this Cup and this circuit, is it's always brought them so close. Kyle was amazing last year in terms of how he hunted down Bradley Philpott and overtook him on the last lap of the last corner to win the race. That was just astonishing gamesmanship from him there, using that slipstream to full effect. So we'll see if he can pull another masterclass like that this evening.
Yeah, and of course the first ever F3 Cup race famously went down to the absolute last corner with Luca Harrison and David Hatton side by side spinning in unison, and Power sneaking through to take the win. We all remember that. My vocal cords certainly do. And I think for Luca as well, he's got a bit of unfinished business at this circuit and will want to right a wrong from that Season 5 race in particular. So, as I mentioned, if you're just joining us for the first time, this is round 4, and last time out, we had quite a bit of fun at the Hungaroring with 3 different race winners, and Danny Henney regaining a bit of ground in the championship. So if you weren't with us last time, here is what you missed. Round 3 of the Missed Apex iRacing F3 Cup in Season 6 took the drivers to another new venue for the series, the Hungaroring. And it was the young sensation Luke Power who mastered the circuit early on, setting electric pace in practice and converting it into a dominant maiden pole position. But a poor getaway saw him drop down to 4th by the first corner of the feature race, with Luca Harrison and Danny Henney battling for the lead. So Harrison, after challenging for the lead down into turn 1, finds himself in 3rd place, and Luke Power now on the rear wing of his in 4th place, having started on pole position. It's not been the best of starts for Luke Power. Kyle Power put on a defensive masterclass in his battle with the pre-race championship leader Harrison and Luke Power, but they ended up having their own squabble for the last spot on the podium. Luke Power looking very, very racy down towards turn 2, looking towards the inside now. Harrison has to give him some space, and with the inside line, can Luke Power find himself on the podium? They're side by side on the exit. They're so close to contact through turn 3. Power keeps his foot in it though. He'll have the line down into turn 4. This would be a very brave move indeed, and they bang wheels once again. Harrison this time keeps his foot in it. Both of them been off the track a couple of times already, and Luke Power, can he just, I think they bang wheels again, down towards the chicane. This is thrilling stuff, and Harrison just about comes out on top. Wow! Their fight was to the benefit of Alex Jonesma, who made an early stop to get free air and managed to split the pair in the pit stop phase. So, after the pit stops, it's still Henney who leads by 4 seconds. Kyle Power remains in 2nd place, Luca Harrison in 3rd. Alex Jonesma's gained a couple of places with his early stop. He's in 4th, ahead of Luke Power. It was once again on for 2nd, but it ended in tears for Harrison. Jonesma trying to come up the inside, and he's tagged. Harrison is round. Henney took a comfortable 3rd win of the season, with Power in 2nd, taking over the lead of the standings, with Luke Power joining him on the podium after a post-race penalty for Jonesma. Jonesma redeemed himself in the first sprint race, however, making up places at the start and picking off Richard Bolden to take the lead and his 2nd win of the season. Spanners wowed the crowd with a brilliant double pass for 2nd. Spanners trying to come up the inside and takes both of them. What a move from Richard Spanners ready, but eventually had to concede to the pace of those behind him, with Alex Van Gien making a break for it early on. Kyle Power and Stephen Williams battled for the last spot on the podium in the closing stages, with Power putting in a sensational pass to claim his 2nd podium of the night. Alexander Doppelsberger proved he hadn't lost any of his skill with a dominant performance in the final race of the night, storming into the lead on the opening lap and walking away with his 1st win of the season. Henney moved up the order to claim a podium finish in 2nd, as Colin Ward made his 1st appearance on the overall rostrum this season to take the lead in the Gold Class Championship. Certainly a lot of action last time out, and from a circuit where we weren't really expecting it, but we have incredibly high hopes for Spa tonight, and let's hope it delivers. So after that round 3, let's take a quick look at the championship standings then. where you will see that Kyle Power goes into this round 4 just after the halfway point of the season with a 42-point lead over Luca Harrison in second place at the moment, who in turn is just 1 point ahead of Danny Henny. And already there, Chris, there's a story to tell in the points that Harrison lost at the Hungaroring.
Absolutely. I think consistency is key, as is shown by Kyle here. He hasn't actually won a race this season, but yet he stands quite dominantly at the top of the table. And that is a very, very big factor. The fact we have 3 races as well in the evening. You can have an absolute mare like Danny's had a couple of times and all of a sudden drop right back. That being said, there are quite a few points available in the evening, so they're nowhere near out of the running just yet.
Yeah, absolutely. 5 podiums to Kyle Power's name this season, serving him in very good stead. And of course, Henny clawing his way back after 2 very difficult rounds starting out the season. He really couldn't afford a third one in Hungary, and he really delivered, and he still can't afford to let up that pressure. Just looking at the Gold Championship as well, we obviously have Colin Ward and Ishmael Basso in the top 6 overall in the championship, and first and second in the gold standings as well. They're separated by just 7 points at the moment. And just behind them as well, of course, we have the silver battle as well, also in the top 10 overall. Again, just showing that quality of field where we have Luke Power and Taro Tylers separated by only 12 points going into this round. And of course, Luke Power was incredibly quick at the Hungaroring last time out, where he stuck it on pole position, didn't quite deliver the race pace that we anticipated, but still has been a very high performer. But by the looks of it, Chris, we're not going to be seeing him on track tonight, so this could be Taro Tylers' opportunity to really gain some ground in that battle.
That's very true, and we also, don't forget, at the end of the season we'll have a dropped round, so it's not a complete disaster, but it does mean that he has to maximise all the other racing events that he's doing this season to make sure that he maximises those points. So we'll see if that affects him towards the end of the year, but yes, it is still very tight midway through the season.
It certainly is. So both the lead battles in gold and silver taking place in the top 10 overall, as we mentioned. Spanners also in the top 10 of the championship as well, just about on 170 points. This is his first season in the platinum class. Again, for new listeners, we have 3 driver classes. We have platinum, gold and silver, and you'll be able to tell them apart by the driver numbers on the cars. So the single digits 1 through 9, that is the platinum drivers. Double digits will be the gold drivers, and the 3-digit numbers are the silver class and the rookie drivers. And you'll also be able to tell them apart by their championship position as well, which runs in number order. So a little over 7 minutes remaining in this session. Still no one has challenged Danny Henny's benchmark time of 2:10.540 just yet. And perhaps that will make him the perfect man to guide you around this Spa-Francorchamps circuit, as we asked him to do earlier this week.
Hi guys, and welcome to a lap of Spa-Francorchamps with me, Danny Henny. I'll guide you around the lap, giving you some tips and tricks to hopefully keep you safe and deliver a good lap time in the race. Coming through the end of the lap now, coming up to the buzz stop, we're going to get down the gearbox nice and smooth, get the car over to the right to open up the last corner and carry a bit of extra speed to start the lap. Coming out the last corner, we go up the gearbox, coming up to the start finish line, and the lap starts now. Over to the left to focus on turn 1. This will be treacherous off the start line, so brake nice and early, stay smooth and avoid contact. Focus on the exit, use a bit of curb if you need to. Traction's the main key coming out of here. You want to carry as much speed as you can down the straight. Coming up to Eau Rouge, this will be treacherous on lap 1, so if you're right behind the car in front, make sure you have a slight blend or lift off. You don't want to be running into someone full speed through here. It can cause a massive crash and ruin a lot of people's races. Coming down the Kemmel Straight now, we're going to take a big deep breath, just relax coming up to the next chicane. We're going to look for the curve to start, we're going to get down the gearbox, get in tight to the right to open up the corner for the left. We're going to compromise the left-hander to stay left, and then this will open the exit on the right-hander. Come out of here, stay smooth, Be aware of the bumps, use a bit of curb, ready for the downhill hairpin. Brake nice and early. Be aware the wheels will lock, so make sure you've got your wits about you if you're right behind anyone. Fire out the corner, into the left. This is treacherous as it will give you a 1x on the exit a couple of times if you get it a bit too wide, so try and stay within the track. Coming up to Pouhon, we're going to stay in 5th, a little bit of a blend off, get the nose in early and back on the throttle, carry as much speed as you can. Out the exit now, coming up to the next chicane, we're going to stay left, down 3 gears, take as much curb on the right as we can to carry the speed. Nice and gentle, try and not plant that throttle too hard. Use a bit of exit curb if you need to, but it is very bumpy. Over to the left, down 1 gear, get the nose in. Focus on the exit, but try and not run too wide. That'll give you 1x and could ruin your lap, especially in qualifying. I'm going to stay smooth out the exit now. This will be a slipstream fest all the way to the end of the lap when you're in the race, so be aware who's around you. Make your defensive moves nice and early. Coming up to Blanchimont, we get over to the right to open the corner up. In nice and smoothly, focusing on the bus stop coming up. We're going to get over to the left, brake early, down the gearbox, try and avoid locking the wheels. Over to the right, brake a little bit to get the nose in for the left, and then straighten as quick as we can for the maximum traction out the corner and over the start finish line. Hopefully that's been helpful, guys, and I look forward to seeing you on race night.
Let's just take another look at this magnificent Spa-Francorchamps circuit. 7.004 kilometers in length, or 4.352 miles in old money. 20 turns, most of them made up of iconic, legendary corners that have seen plenty of action in a modicum of different racing categories over the years. And Chris, this race has really become a mainstay on the calendar now, not only because it provides thrilling action, but I think it might well be one of the most satisfying laps to drive in iRacing.
It absolutely is. It's such a difficult circuit, even in these cars, in the F3 cars, that you might think going through Eau Rouge and Raidillon would be easy, but actually it's really, really tricky, particularly clattering those curbs. And I don't know about you, Chris, but I think some of the most important corners on this circuit are going to be the entry and exit to the pit lane.
Yes, this is very true. So in the practice races, I think it's safe to say that a few drivers have come a cropper with the pit entry, and because of course this season we're putting more emphasis on that with the mandatory pit stop, so they'll have to nail that pit entry, which is very narrow, concrete walls either side of it as well, and then of course the pit exit coming out of a tight hairpin on the inside of La Source. We've seen a few drivers loop it round at that point.
Absolutely, and there's less margin for error on this circuit of the off tracks as well, because in Hungary I think there was a little bit of, shall we say, pushing the boundaries of what's acceptable in terms of wheel-to-wheel fighting going off the circuit sometimes. But here there's a lot of gravel traps, a lot of grass, which is actually quite slippery, and you don't want to be getting off a couple of wheels on there, or you'll be meeting up with the barriers in a rather close embrace, shall we say.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, it was to the point where we had to extend the X limit to 14 for that particular round, just because it was getting incredibly easy to pick up a silly 1x for track limits. Back down to the usual 12, though, so if you pick up 12 incident points, you will be given a drive-through penalty in a particular race. So that is definitely one to watch out for. Here is Spanners ready on another new setup for this race. Of course, he was joining us from Sim Center in Malaga last time out. He's got another new setup. And he was telling me, Chris, you won't believe this, he's racing with shoes on.
No way, how is he going to manage that?
I don't know. He says it's better for him. I mean, each to their own. It really goes to show that no two drivers are ever really alike. But yeah, but whatever works for him.
And you're telling me that they're not all sitting there in their helmets and gloves and race suits like I do? That's not what we do? That's what simulated racing. You've got to simulate everything, right?
Yeah. I think.
Sure.
I, to be honest, man, I think you might be on your own on that one.
I'll tell you a little story from my youth. So when I was first doing sim racing back in the 90s and noughties, that's well before your time, Chris, but I used to have a little wooden steering wheel with some potentiometers that me and my dad had made, and we were playing.
Seen the wooden steering wheel. It was in the foot of your car.
Handcrafted. and we were Grand Prix 2 was the sim of the day. And what we did was I was driving around and my dad would lean the chair to try and simulate the G-forces. And then I learned to not to crash pretty quickly because I get thrown off pretty violently. So that was the first feeling of force feedback that I ever got. But no, it was... so we've come on a little bit since then. And I think Spanners' setup is probably, despite the challenges that he's facing travelling around the world, still infinitely better than that one, although possibly not quite as memorable.
Speaking of getting thrown out violently, Luca Harrison just had a very curious spin down at the bus stop chicane. Almost looked like the rear brakes completely seized. An odd one there, and not the kind of thing you want to happen right before qualifying, which we are into now. And the 10-minute session is underway, and as you will see, every single car is on track together, so it's not like the iRacing officials where you have 2 flying laps by yourself to set the grid. And this is where we're already going to start to see the tactics at play and drivers fighting for track positions. So Alex Smith is leading the field out there. We have Tim Ellis in the yellow and blue car, Dobertsberger and Henny and Power and Colin Ward all along the Camel Straight as well. And yeah, I dare say we're about to see some squabbling for track position.
You know, it is fantastic to see some of these guys with the 3-digit names up there, like Alex Smith. He was fast in practice, so I'm really expecting good things from him. It's a shame that he's out front because he's not going to benefit from that toe, so he might, as you say, want to try and drop behind Tim or Alex to see what he can get. Also interesting that the 2 Venom Works drivers are, you know, line astern. Are they going to be playing games with each other, or are they going to be helping each other to make sure that they qualify on the front row? We shall soon see.
I believe they have a gentleman's agreement for the race, at least anyway, that they will try and work together to try and break away from the pack if necessary.
Well, we shall see if that comes to fruition in qualifying as well. We were talking about that gap that they have to build, and it looks like Danny Henny is keeping quite close to the cars in front. So we were saying it's probably about 4 or 5 tenths you gain in the slipstream. So he's got to be careful. They might start to spread themselves out towards the chicane, but they're all still looking a little bit close.
Yeah, I think we might well see some Formula One style backing up the pack any second now. That's Blanchimont, so only 1 corner to go, and Henny's making a move for track position here, so he wants to get ahead of Dobertsberger and get between him and Tim Ellis. So it's still Smith who comes across the line first to start flying lap, but there's Henny ahead of Dobertsberger, and that's really going to compromise Dobertsberger's first flying lap. But here we go then, down into La Source for the first time, and a wide moment here for Danny Henny, and that is going to throw his lap pretty much straight away and probably compromise Dobertsberger's as well.
What a fascinating decision there from Danny Henny as they come into Eau Rouge. That is such a chop there from him. It's great to see, because he's just got to get on with it now. He won't be benefiting from the toe, and Henny looks like he might, well, he's sitting right with him. Is he? Are they just going to stuff each other's laps again?
Yeah, I think they've both realised at this point that the lap is blown. So here's Henny trying to regain track position on the inside of Les Combes. For what it's worth, the first sector times between Smith and Ellis were pretty identical. Only a hundredth separating them. Those are the first 2 cars in the pack. But Power, it seems to be fastest at the moment with 37.9. Dronsmer is matching that pace, as is Colin Ward. And to give you a bit of an indication, Danny Henny 4 tenths slower in the first sector of that lap. So he's definitely been compromised on this first flying lap.
It is, and actually Carl Power's run wide there, and that's because he got tucked up under the rear wing and got the slipstream in the wrong place, because the 2 in front of him were squabbling, and he just washed out because he would have had no clean air on that front wing, and that's really bad washing out through the double gauche corner. So, or the double left as it would be in English. But so he might well have even invalidated his lap going off all 4 wheels there. So we shall see.
I think he's got away with it because the track limits of this circuit are a little bit wide of the white line itself, and even in some parts the curbing. So he hasn't registered a 1X yet, so this is still a valid lap. Whether it's still going to be a good one, I mean, he's in perfect slipstreaming territory here with Dobertsberger. As long as he doesn't get held up now at the bus stop chicane. Depends on the speed that Dobbelsberger carries into the corner. Power might just get away with this. He's being compromised a little bit there. So the first times are now being posted. Tim Ellis with provisional pole at the moment at 2:11.4, but Power has indeed gone quicker, 2:11.3 for the championship leader. Stephen Williams in third. Luca Harrison, though, with a blinding lap, goes almost 6/10 clear of the rest of them, 2:10.7. And remember what we were saying in practice, Chris, because it's such a long lap, they have more time to get the tyres into the optimum window, and it could actually be the early laps that are the pace-setting ones here, rather than the later ones like we usually see.
Absolutely, it doesn't take much to even overcook your tyres at this circuit, so they do have to be very careful. To me, it was Harrison was the only one who was being sensible in that first lap. He's got such an advantage, 6/10, and that's because if you look at where he's sitting, he's got a good gap to the car in front of him. Wasn't at all bothered through the difficult corner sections as Kyle Power goes a little bit wide, maybe taking a different line through there, compromised him slightly. But this time Kyle has done very well for himself. He managed to overtake Dobbelsberger just at the right point. Now he's going to benefit from the tow from Henny as well. So this could be a stonking lap from Power.
I'll tell you as well about Luca Harrison is the car he's behind, as well as Gregoire Gomez, and you would expect them to be a roughly similar pace, and Gomez currently 5th fastest at the moment. I'll tell you who is being compromised on this lap is Tim Ellis, because he has already passed Smith on this lap, but he's now being held up behind one of the other cars who came out a lap later than the rest of them. That's James Braid in front of him, and this is not going to be the kind of lap that Ellis was hoping to get, but well, compared to Power, as you mentioned, who's kind of in a prime spot here at the moment.
Yeah, Henny and Power looking good, as you said. Ellis really compromised here. He's going to have to just try and get past and see. There he goes into the bus stop chicane. And lots of brake. That will definitely give him a bit more heat than he wants in that front left tyre there.
And of course compromising the first flying lap of James Braid as well, which he won't be too thankful for. So across the line they all come then. If there are any improvements, Danny Henny has improved to a 2:11 flat. Power improved as well, also to a 2:11 flat. We've got 3 cars separated by 0.03 of a second. Make that 4 cars, because James Wingfield's just gone 5th fastest as well. So the pack really tightening up here, and Harrison's advantage has been reduced to 0.3 of a second, with Henny going on to the provisional front row.
Fantastic seeing James Wingfield up there in the red and yellow car. He's not featured at the front of our races for a little while now, but he was definitely one of the stalwarts of the early championships that we had, and it's really good to see him putting in a good lap time.
Now Henny may well be on for a flyer here, because he's
sorry,
done
Carl Power's just had a crash with Dobbelsberger. My apologies to cut across you there, Chris, but that's probably ruined both of their qualifying sessions.
Yep, could well do. So Power just on the exit of Malmedy there we see.
It looks like Power lost it all on his own actually, and just collected Dobbelsberger. Here he goes.
Yeah, so Dobbelsberger's actually quite far behind him here.
Yeah, he's going through leg com. I think what happens is he just got it all crossed up going into Malmedy and left Dobbelsberger nowhere to go. So that is a shame for both of them. Power just pushing a little bit too hard. Yeah, and that's ruined both their sessions.
But Dobbelsberger's dropped it, trying to avoid contact with Power there. I think just getting his left-hand wheels on the outside curb there. So that's definitely compromised him. But he has at least managed to avoid damaging the car, and he'll cool down the tyres and hopefully go again. He's actually behind Luca Harrison on track. Might learn a thing or two from him. The point I was making before that moment was that Danny Henny had done a blistering first sector because he had a double tow down the Kemmel straight, much like the one we're seeing for Luca Harrison here, who's getting a great slipstream behind the car in front. And coming up towards Blanchimont, Henny is about to come across the line now. We'll see if he can reduce the gap. He can, because it's a 2:10.696. He goes on to the provisional pole position slot by 0.08 of a second. And here is Harrison now coming through the bus stop. Has he been compromised by through that chicane? We're about to find out, because he comes across the line and didn't improve That was definitely a slow lap from Harrison there. So provisionally, it's Henny on pole, Harrison in second. And at the moment, Henny would be on course for his first pole position of the season. And Chris, I can't believe I'm saying that.
I was about to say exactly the same thing. I never thought after his dominant pole position performance last year, he was Mr. Saturday of our little championship here. But yeah, no, it would be his first one, and that is definitely an odd thing to say. And I must say, on that lap, he did get a compromise through the final chicane. So I think he's in a powerful position there as Harrison dives down the outside of Wingfield. So he's got a great toe. This could be a good lap for him to challenge Henny for that pole position.
And of course, this is absolutely crucial now because the checkered flag is about to come out. So this is the final laps that we're going to see here. So hopefully Power didn't get too compromised there as Wingfield was letting the field through. Henny here, we see he's still tucked up behind Tim Ellis, who's currently in 7th place. How much is that going to compromise him on this last lap? He does have provisional pole at the moment, but the sector times coming in are looking okay for Harrison. So this is going to be another nail-biting finish to a qualifying session at Spa. And here we see Henny now with the slipstream. Has he timed this right? Ellis is not going to want to just wave Henny by. And remember, the slipstream is what gave Alex Jonesma the pole position here. And I think Henny's backed out of the lap. I think Henny is backed out of it because he's dropping behind Ellis here. He doesn't want to compromise Ellis, and he knows he's not going to gain by attacking him into the bus stop. And he's diving into the pit, so it's going to be all eyes on Luca Harrison then, who is coming through Blanchimont now. Can he improve on this lap? It's not the fastest first sector that we have seen, and he may well have invalidated the lap, getting it all crossed up on the way into the bus stop, but he drives towards the line now. Power dives for the pits as well, so he's not going to be on pole position. Can Harrison make it another pole position this season? No, he cannot. He remains in 2nd place, and is Danny Henny for the first time this season on pole position.
Harrison threw everything at it through that last sector, but it wasn't quite enough. You could see him just getting completely crossed up into that first part of the chicane, which put him as a compromised exit. So he really gave it a good run for his money, but Danny Henny finally takes that pole position by only 7 thousandths of a second. That's incredible, Chris.
Yeah, not bad at all. And Jonesma here has put it on the 2nd row of the grid as well, with Kyle Power 4. So we've got the top 3 of the championship starting in the top 4. James Wingfield did hold on to that 5th place in the end. Gregoire Gomez starting in 6th as well. That is quite a tasty looking grid.
It is, and just an honourable mention here for Matt Trumpets, one of our stalwarts of the podcast, up in 14th place, just ahead of Alex Smith, who we were talking about earlier. But that is a stellar performance from him. And he was saying to us earlier in the day how he wasn't getting the ideal preparation, having to go out shopping for more alcohol just before he came on the grid. So we shall see if he can convert that fantastic start into a good points finish.
Yep, and Spanner's there in 17th place as well. Worth mentioning it as well that Alex Van Gien is taking part, but he's starting from the pit lane today and seeing how far up the order he can get himself. So here's the grid then for the feature race for round 4 of the Missed Apex iRacing F3 Cup. It will be Danny Henny on pole position for the first time this season, with Luca Harrison starting alongside him. Then Alex Jonesma and the championship leader Kyle Power on row 2, James Wingfield and Gregoire Gomez on row 3, Tim Ellis and Stephen Williams on row 4, then Nick Alexander and the silver championship contender Taro Tylus on the 5th row of the grid, followed by Mark Greenhow and Callum McIntyre from driver 61 on row 6. Then it is Colin Ward, the gold championship leader, starting in 13th ahead of Matt Trumpets. Then it's Alex Smith and Alexander Dobbertsberger. He will really want to come up the order there from 16th on the grid. Richard Spanner's ready and John Langan on row 9, then Daniel Cook and James Caswell, followed by Richard Molden and Colton Myers, Jose O'Donnell and Adrian Clark on row 12. Frick Smith and Matt Cook, then Miguel Morland and Stefan Froelich, followed by Ryan Sedgwick and John Cox, James Braid and Peter Shilcock, with Andrew Sexton, John McClintock, Brian Dudkowski. And then Mike Stoner and Alex Van Gien, who'll be starting for the pit lane, Stephen Taylor and Barry Kemp and Trinidad Zavala completing a 42-car grid at Spa-Francorchamps. The feature race is about to get underway and the championship battle is definitely heating up. Kyle Power leads the standings by 42 points. What can he do today as all 5 lights are on? And it is lights out at Spa-Francorchamps. Danny Henny leads the field away as Alex Jones, but looks like he's already challenging for second place. Kyle Power trying to find a way through there as well. Harrison goes around the outside, holds on to second place, just about, runs a little bit wide there as Jonesborough slots in behind. Gregoire Gomez in the red-tipped car, trying to defend from Ellis and also make a move on James Wingfield in 5th place there, keeping it neat and tidy so far through Eau Rouge, but that is James Wingfield getting very crossed up at the top of Radion, runs out a bit wide, and that allows Gomez to go through, and here comes Luca Harrison for the lead of the race. Jonesborough, can he make it 3 wide? It is side by side between Harrison and Henny for the lead of the race. Going into Lake Com, it's Harrison on the outside, he'll be forced a long way round, and Henny cannot do anything with that. So Harrison takes the lead of the race.
There's the curse of starting on pole position at Spa. You're never going to be up into Les Combes in the lead, and that is brilliant from Harrison. It's exactly the start he wanted. You've got Drillsman and Powell behind, followed by Gomez, who was nibbling at his heels, and then Ellis just behind him.
Yeah, a much cleaner start than what we've seen in the practice races. It looks like James Wingfield is still slipping back because he's just lost the place to Stephen Williams, who's moved up to 7th. That's another very rapid car we have to keep an eye out for as Power and a couple of others run a bit wide through Pouon, and that could give Gomez a run. He's got half his car over the white line up the inside of the Fania chicane, and can he claim a place here on the championship leader? Power stands his ground on the inside and just about fends off Gomez. That gives Ellis a run along the outside. This is all over for 5th and 4th place, and Ellis could well find himself up a place here. Side by side, hurt the exit of the curve, Paul Frere. And that opportunity there created by Power could well end up with Gomez losing a place here, but Gomez, just with the momentum, is able to chop the nose of Ellis there, with Stephen Williams right in the thick of the action as well. But look at it for the lead there going into the bus stop chicane. Henny was right up on the back of Harrison's car. So as they come out of the bus stop for the first time, Harrison leads by half a second to Danny Henny. Then it's Jonesborough, Power in 4th place. Gomez, Ellis and Williams all squabbling over 5th place at the moment. Then we've got James Wingfield. Taro Tylers is up a few spots in 9th place. Actually made that 10th because he's just been done by Callum McIntyre from driver 61. That is the top 10 at the end of lap 1.
And he perfectly positioned here. Harrison just got slightly wide at the first corner. That's put him under pressure. He's only a 10th behind as they come up. He's going to be alongside before they even get to what would be the DRS zone in Formula 1, Chris.
Yep, so here we can see the power of the slipstream. This is where Harrison took the lead on the opening lap, and Henny doesn't even need the braking zone for Les Combes because he's through already. I dare say Harrison may well have let him go there so that they're not fighting and losing time, because like we said, Chris, this is going to be a pack race, and if you can try and break away from the field, then you need every opportunity you can to try and make that happen.
That's true, Chris. And speaking of tactics in this race and breaking away from the field, don't forget these guys have to do a mandatory pit stop in this race. We've got another 25 minutes to go, or we're on lap 2 of, we think, 12. So where do you think they're going to take it, Chris? Because you've got to make sure you don't feed yourself back into the pack, but also you want to be able to make use of the slipstream so that you're not just left behind. So a bit of daring tactics going to go on here. I was thinking we might see somebody duck in the first couple of laps, but I haven't seen it yet, just yet.
Yeah, it all depends. Really, we've got the pack still quite close together, so I think they'll want to create a bit more of a gap. I'll tell you what, there wasn't much of a gap of there, was between Power's tyres and the gravel trap there. Might have just dipped into the gravel there ever so slightly, and Power trying to get into this battle for the podium, but also repel the advances of Gregoire Gomez, who, to put it mildly, is one of the more robust attackers in this field, and we know he'll take half an opportunity to make a pass if he is given one. But this top 6 really not showing any signs of breaking apart anytime soon.
What's getting away, and the little bit of squabbling that's going on is just keeping them nice and tight. This is forming up to be a beautiful little race that we've got going on here. Harrison, again, coming through the first corner, is about half a second behind. That should draw him level coming up the Kemmel Straight.
Yeah, fastest lap of the race from Henny, that time around at 2:10.9. And as they come through Eau Rouge for the third time, is there going to be another opportunity here for Harrison to try and regain the lead? Now, remember what Power did last time we raced here. He just sat in the slipstream of Brad Philpott and waited until the last lap. But here, Henny's making a defensive move towards the inside and again relinquishes the lead to Luca Harrison. And as we see just behind them as well, Kyle Power has made his way up into third place as well. He's got past Alex Jonesma. So Kyle Power, the championship leader, now up into third place. And we've got the top three in the championship, line astern on track.
Almost like they're in an endurance race trying to save some fuel, swapping around every lap. Danny Henny, they're locked a wheel, but I don't think that will cause him any particular problems because it was unloaded there, so it was fine just smoking as he went around the corner, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. You probably, the eagle-eyed viewers just saw a little puff of smoke there. And so Kyle Power has got past Alex Drillsma, so he's up into third place, and he's going to see if he can try and chase down the two in front of him. But he does have a little bit of a gap. It's up to 0.8 of a second between him and the front two, so he's got to make sure that he doesn't spend all of his effort trying to propel Drillman from behind him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got to try and stay with the leaders because if you fall away from the pack, it's very hard to get back into it, especially if you've got a string of cars behind you because you end up just battling with them. Danny was telling me that really you don't want to be leading this race because you're just punching a hole in the air for everyone else, and Jonesma here is finding it out to good effect. Look at the overspeed as he comes through Blanchimont. They're going to be side by side going into the bus stop chicane, and this is what we were talking about, Chris, because Power's going to be losing time with this defending.
Absolutely, and defending to within an inch of perfection there, leaving Drillsma exactly a car's width and possibly a hair more, but that is absolutely it. Looking to the inside, that would be a foolish place to try and overtake because you want to get that drag down the Kemmel Straight. So again, perfectly positioned here. We just got, if we stay on board as he goes through Eau Rouge here, this is just a fantastic shot of that green Venom Works livery in front of us, clattering the curbs as he goes up the hill. Look at the run he's got already, Chris. He's going to try and duck to the inside already coming up the hill.
I'll tell you what, he lost a little bit of momentum though, because I think he had to get out of the throttle in the middle of Eau Rouge. So here he is on the inside line, and look at Gregoire Gomez coming through as well. We're going to go three wide into Les Combes. Gomez, the car on the inside. This could end in tears. Gomez is going to have 2 in 1 here. He does, and moves up into third place. What a brilliant move from the Frenchman.
Absolutely stunning and opportunistic. That was beautiful. The two in front of him just punched a hole through the air, and the waves parted for him, Chris. So yeah.
Sorry, Chris. We've got a mistake from our leader, Luca Harrison. He ran wide on the exit of Rivage corner there, and Henny is right on the tail of him now. Has a little look towards the inside of Pouon, but I don't think he wants to be making a move there. Both of them running wide through Pouon now, but we've got it nose to tail once again for the race lead because of that mistake from Harrison.
Got to be careful not to trip over each other at this stage of the race because they are the clear favourites at this point. They've just carved out that little niche for themselves at the front of the field, although Gomez is rapidly catching up with them. Actually, he's got good pace today. But yeah, they've got to be careful not to clatter into each other, lose a bit of front wing. They want to work together a little bit to make sure they maintain their advantage because they don't want to slip into the clutches of that chasing pack.
Well, Henny's going for it once again here, side by side towards Blanchimont. Harrison has to leave him a car's width on the outside, and Harrison again just lets Henny go. And Harrison's been in this position before. He's been side by side into the bus stop with a rival when it ended in tears on the final lap for him in season 5, really trying to right those wrongs. But all this sort of letting the other one back through, it's now allowed Gomez to join the fight because he's just half a second now behind Harrison. Power actually seems to be the one who's the cork in the bottle here.
Absolutely, and as you say, the little gamesmanship going on at the front is definitely costing them some time because Gomez is flying up behind them. In fact, he might have a good opportunity up the straight again if these two aren't careful. And they're probably not looking in their mirrors as much as they should be for the guy behind. Here they go again, Chris, for the lead of the race.
Yep, so it's almost a carbon copy at this point, side by side for the lead of the race. And Drillsma on the grass there we saw in the background trying to get past Power. But here's Harrison again, getting the lead back again on the outside of Les Combes. So he made the mistake a lap ago and now has reclaimed that first place spot. I've lost count of how many times these guys have swapped places in this race already, and it's only lap 5. It's all the thrills we were expecting.
Absolutely, I'm sure it is more than 5 that we've seen overtakes. It's such a wonderful circuit, such a wonderful platform, the iRacing platform to watch. It gives us such wonderful pictures and broadcasting quality. Let's have a look down the field then. So where shall we go to, Chris? We've got Stephen Williams in 7th place. He's making some good progress through the field.
Just sort of joining that second train of cars we've got there, fighting over 4th place, and then Callum McIntyre's made up a couple of spots. He's in 9th place. James Wingfield's fallen down to about 10th place from 5th on the grid. And then actually we have the battle for the lead in the silver class between Alex Smith and Taro Tylers there in 12th and 13th.
One to mention, Chris, was actually Alex Dobbsberger, who had a particularly disappointing qualifying for him. He's now back up to 8th place, so that's going to be good for his championship ambitions. Getting an 8th place again will be really good for him in the second race as well, because he'll get a preferential starting position.
Just go back to the lead. Sorry, Chris. There was a bit of a move there from Henny down the inside, and I think that caught Gomez out a little bit because he ended up locking his rear brakes, and that has allowed Harrison to break clear by almost a second as they came across the timing line. Could that be the break that Harrison needs to start pulling away? We haven't seen any sign of intention to enter the pits from any of our top runners just yet. We're coming up to the halfway point in this race, but Harrison now leads by about 9/10 of a second, and Henny now is suddenly having to watch his mirrors for Gomez,
which is absolutely full of the pink helmet as he comes alongside him down the straight. Harrison needs to use any of those off tracks that he may have stored up to make sure that he gets as much of an advantage as possible. Henny might be coming back at him.
Oh, he lunges him back up the inside. Gomez trying to fight it around the outside, and eventually the line comes to him through the left-hander, and he gets up into 2nd place. There is no love lost between these two drivers. They have come to blows more than a few times in this championship, and I think Henny, he really didn't want to lose that spot to Gomez there.
Absolutely. I just remember back to the controversial Silverstone safety car incident was one of the highlights of Series 2. And Gomez is now ahead of Henny, but he's 1.5 seconds clear as Luca Harrison at the head of the field. So I think, Chris, you were absolutely right. That was perfect opportunity for him as we have our first pitters of the race.
Yeah, that's Trinidad Zavala, one of the back markers, just confusing the timing system there a little bit. So if it shows him in first, don't worry about that. It is still Luca Harrison leading by now 1.3 seconds. This could be the most crucial moment of this race. If he keeps it clean and tidy now, he can let Gomez and Henny all squabble, and it's actually now Ellis who's up into 4th place and closing in on this battle for the podium as well.
Gomez made a huge error coming out of Stavolo, dipped both of his left-hand wheels on the gravel. That's put Henny into a fighting position, but he chooses not to lunge into the chicane as Gomez, the head locks a wheel, gets very, very close there, Chris. And as you say, Ellis is prowling behind them, so this is far from over for the podium slot.
Yeah, side by side between Johnsworth and Williams, over 6th place behind them as well, but we'll keep focused on this battle for the podium as Ellis does the fastest lap of the race there. That is the blue and yellow car stalking the back of the reigning champion there, the number 4 car that has just set the fastest lap of the race and is now mounting a challenge for the podium places, dragging Kyle Power with him as well. Those two cars squabbling behind him has given him a little bit of a reprieve. What can Henny do about this? It's Gomez to the inside once again, and Henny having to go the long way round. Can he get it done before the braking zone? Yes, he can. So Danny Henny back up into 2nd place. Gomez having to relinquish that one, and the lead gap just steadying a little bit now as these guys are playing it a little bit more strategically now. They're not going for the defensive moves and lunging up the inside. They're waiting for the drafting opportunities on the Kemmel Straight, which seems to be the cleanest way to make a pass.
That's it, and I imagine Danny is shouting into the TeamSpeak channel. He's probably going, just work together, we need to reel him back in, because Luca is definitely still getting away. but he's only 1.2 seconds ahead, so the gap has come down slightly. So if they stop squabbling, they might be able to bring it back in.
And of course, we've still got to consider the pit stop as well, which could make a massive difference with this pack all squabbling. And depending on where you come out, no one really knows what the right thing to do is, and when the right time to pit is. It's all going to depend on how the action plays out. Here we go on the back straight once again. Gomez will close up towards Henny. Now, is he going to pay attention to those cries of help for just stop squabbling and let's get after Harrison, or is Gomez going to try and run his own race? I think he would have been alongside Henny by now, and definitely seems to be backing out towards the bus stop. So it looks like we've got a bit of gamesmanship going on here, and Harrison has lunged for the pits. So Luca Harrison, from the lead of the race, is the first of the front runners to come in. And remember, at Silverstone, it was when he pitted from the lead that cost him, because he didn't quite nail the pit entry and was stationary for a little bit longer than he wanted to be. So there he is, stops on his marks. There, he'll get a splash of fuel, and off he goes once again. 4.4 seconds stationary time. Now, this is going to be key to see where he comes out. Don't light up the tyres on the pit lane exit, and is going to come out right behind a car. Meanwhile, the leaders are onto the Camel Straight, and Ellis is now making his move. As is Gomez. We've got side by side once again for the lead of the race, and Gomez trying to go the long way round once again. An almost identical move, but this time Henny keeps his foot in it and tries to get it back into Malmedy, but Gomez holds it around the outside, and Ellis coming down the inside now into Rivage Corner. This is not what these guys need to be doing at all. This is exactly what cost the drivers who stayed out at the Hungaroring, because Jonesma made an early stop and got into free air and allowed the cars ahead of him to just squabble and lose time in the pit stop phase, which is exactly what these guys are doing now.
Harrison, I think, has timed it to perfection, because he managed to make it so that he didn't give the guys behind him a bit of a tow. And as you said, Chris, they're now absolutely squabbling tooth and nail for these positions. Henny has really got to watch out, because Ellis, just in front of him, I don't think he's got the raw pace, but he's been dragged into this battle. As you see him getting very squirrely on the exit there, he's really going for it. Again, locking the brake, going slightly wide. Does this mean he's coming into the pits and really just trying to force it? But you've just got to be careful also following a driver into the pit lane, because it is so narrow. If they clatter into the wall in front of you, you've got nowhere to go.
Henny coming back for second place on Ellis now. So it's Gomez the one who's timed this to perfection, getting into clear air, and that's why he fought so hard for it. Henny back up into second place before they turn into Blanchimont, but Ellis is going to try and come back at him towards the bus stop. And Kyle Power wants a piece of the action as well. He's looking up the inside, and that looks to be Gomez going for the pits, as does Kyle Power. So we've got two more of the lead contenders into the pits, but Henny, Ellis, Jonesma and Williams stay out.
I think Ellis has overcooked his rear tyres, because again he got some oversteer on the exit just on the power, and again out of the first corner. So I think he may be crying, those tyres are crying enough, and he might be in the pits fairly shortly. So Harrison in up to 7th place now as the pit stops start to shuffle, and actually Gomez was very close to him on pit exit there, so it is by no means over for that lead. He's only 7/10 behind as it shuffles out, so somehow they've managed to keep that time and actually reduce it to Harrison.
Yeah, I think Gomez timed the move to perfection, because he's closed right up. The cars left in second place are fighting absolutely tooth and nail at the moment, coming down towards Rivage. It's Stephen Williams who's come out on top, so he's made up a couple of places there on Jonesma and Ellis. These two are really going to come to blows at some point, and will probably lose out in the pit stop phase when it comes down to it. But crucially, as you mentioned, Chris, Luca Harrison has held off Gregoire Gomez and Kyle Power, despite actually Gomez being a little bit quicker through the pits, actually by 0.3 of a second. But we'll see how in the latter stages of the race how that plays out. These three cars that we're watching still squabbling over second place. I imagine it won't be long until we see the rest of the leaders into the pits. Henny making an absolute break for it now. His last lap was a 2:13. That's how much time he was losing in the squabble. Meanwhile, Harrison has probably got it back down into the 2:11s. We haven't actually seen his first flying lap just yet, but his sector times look good, and this could be the all-important moment. Is Henny going to dive into the pits now? He does indeed. That is a very tight angle. My goodness.
I think that was a last-minute call for the pit lane there as he makes his marks in the pit limiter. Down he trundles. It must feel so slow. Have you been in race speed and then having to just kind of go down? And he's actually having to lose out from a back marker going into the pit lane there. That was so close to an incident. That looked like James Wingfield. He's actually had to pull onto the infield section.
Yeah, Stephen Williams and Alexander Dobbelsberger have come in behind him as well. So Tim Ellis and Alex Jonesma have stayed out. Here comes Henny. Now this is going to be crucial. Where does he file out into the traffic? Harrison's gone through. Gomez has gone through as well. So Henny has come out in a net third place here. And you see, it's really strung the cars out. So it's Harrison in the net lead, Gomez second, Henny third, and then Power. And Williams and Dobbelsberger just coming out behind them as well. So now the question is, where are Ellis and Jonesma going to come out?
Oh, did Henny make a mistake there? Did he need one more lap of hammer time? You won't thank me for that reference, but did he need one more lap of clear air so that he could just pump the lap in and then do a Schumacher and just manage to jump them in the pit stop phase? But we shall see that if he can close this gap, because it is 1.1 seconds, he won't be benefiting from that toe anymore. So he's really got to get the hammer down and see if he can just claw his way back into contention with 2 laps to go.
Here are the race leaders yet to make their stop. Tim Ellis and Alex Jonesma, who have sort of calmed down a little bit now because they were really, really squabbling over those positions a lap ago. But now they're just trying to get the hammer down. I think it's safe to say Harrison with the early stop, definitely the right call, and Gomez probably one of the benefactors of that as well, just by creating a little bit of distance between himself and the chasing pack, because he was really fighting hard for that position, and it's turned out to be the correct decision.
Absolutely, Chris, and one to look out for in the final shakedown of things is Dobbelsberger as well, who's now in 9th place behind Stephen Williams, just a second behind. And he has made his pit stop as well, so he's going to really benefit from this phase too, as Ellis gets very close, and both of them pitting at the same time, Chris.
Yep, so Jonesma fancied a run at Ellis there into the bus stop chicane, but they both dive for the pit lane now. And they'll come across the line and start the penultimate lap of the race. So they've really left this late as the leaders coming down the start-finish straight. Now, Luca Harrison will resume the lead of the race. Gomez and Henny will go through as well. So it's just 3/4 of a second that separate the top two going into the final 2 laps. We've been here before, Chris. We've seen some nail-biting finishes, and there we just see the pack coming round as they came out of the pits. And Stephen Williams is actually the big winner because he's come out in 5th place ahead of both Ellis and Jonesma.
Yeah, so they came out into that second gap that I was talking about. It was very, very close. That is a very tight pack there. There's going to be some action coming down the Kemmel Straight as Williams has to go defensive for Ellis, who's just about to lunge down the outside.
Well, Williams stands his ground. Side by side through the Lacombe chicane, but Williams gets pushed out wide a little bit there onto the curb. That gives Ellis the clean run around the outside, gives Jonesma the run as well, gives Dobbelsberger the run as well, but through Rivage, Williams with the line might just hang on to it. A little mistake there just cost Williams 2 positions. That's how tight it is in this pack.
It is a long way around the outside of there. You're not going to make the move stick there very easily, especially against somebody like Stephen Williams, the wily old fox. So we shall see if he can get back in there as the driver in front of him. I think that's Drillsma went very wide there, testing the limits of what is possible in these machines.
Yeah, not the first driver this week, or indeed tonight, to come a cropper of the track limits at Pouon. Actually, speaking of the track limits, Gregoire Gomez is on 11 incident points, and with a lap and a bit to go, he needs a super clean last lap here to make sure he doesn't get a drive-through penalty. But he's got the conflict of knowing that he's closing in on Luca Harrison for the lead of the race. Can he put it all on the line? He can't risk anything, because if he gets an incident point, he gets a drive-through penalty. He hits the limit that we set for these races. And once again, Chris, we're going into the final lap. A little mistake there from Harrison And we don't know who's going to be winning this race with a lap to go. 0.4 of a second separate the top two as they go over the line.
It's just super exciting because he's right within that slipstream limit. But as you say, Chris, he can't put a wheel wrong. He can't even touch him, even slightly. So we're going to see, don't rule out Danny Henney as well, who's only a second behind these guys as they come down the straight up to Eau Rouge. Let's stay on board as we watch him fling it up there again and clattering those curbs. That's a good run, Chris.
That's a very good run indeed, and oh boy did he leave it late to pull out of the slipstream side by side for the lead of the race on the final lap. Once again, Harrison and Gomez going wheel to wheel here, and Gomez, has he just about got the car length he needs on Harrison? He doesn't. Going into the braking zone, Harrison's going to stand his ground. He can risk more than Gomez, and how many times has Gomez pulled this move off in this race? Can he do it one more time? They're so close, unbelievable. On the exit of the corner, they're still absolutely neck and neck. Henney trying to find a way in this as well. Harrison has the line down into Rivage. Can he push him out wide? Henney almost gets his nose chopped there. Gomez will have the line into the Jackie X corner, and Harrison runs out wide. This is all too familiar for Harrison on the final lap here. Still they are side by side. Unbelievable. Round the outside of Pouon goes Harrison, and Henney runs off the track trying to find a way through here. Absolutely thrilling stuff on the final lap at Spa-Francorchamps. Harrison holds the lead. Henney into second. Henney has capitalised on that poor run there for Gregoire Gomez, and he finds himself in second place. Can he take his first win at Spa-Francorchamps on the last lap?
Told you not to rule Danny Henney out. Here he comes. He's going to get into that slipstream, see what he can do into the final chicane. Chris, I'll leave this one down to you.
Yeah, cheers, Chris. So the nail-biting finish we all anticipated, the pack race that we were expecting, and it is nose to tail with just a few metres to go in this race. Harrison side by side with Henney through Blanchimont. Henney with the line though into the bus stop chicane. Remember what happened 2 seasons ago? This was the exact same position that Harrison found himself in. Henney's going to force him out wide. They make contact. And Gomez comes through to win the race. It's happened again to Harrison. He's lost out at the final corner. Gregoire Gomez wins at Spa.
I do not believe it, and you can see the green car of Kyle Power coming through as well. I thought for a moment he would take the win again. Wow, what absolute drama as we come through. Henney finishes in 7th. That is such a shame for those two drivers, Chris.
I cannot believe it. Once again, we took it down to the absolute final corner. Let's get Gregoire in here to talk about that last lap. It looked like it was all over for him at that point, but what do you know it? The top two come together once again. Unbelievable drama at Spa.
I haven't won, Chris.
Did you get a penalty, Greg?
Gregoire Gomez has the incident points.
Yeah, I was.
Kyle Power is the winner.
Oh man,
unbelievable! So much happening in that last lap, Gregoire. We didn't even see the incident points. We didn't even see the incident points there. So the top three that crossed the line, it's not any of them. It's Kyle Power.
So we should have Kyle in here again. Once again, Kyle, you come through at the final corner. It's like Moses and the Red Sea. It just parts for you. How does it feel to have won the race?
I'm absolutely speechless, to be honest. I really don't know what to say. I wasn't driving particularly well. I've got a bit of a confession. I'm a bit hungover today, and I was struggling to focus. So I kind of lost the toe to the group in front, and then see them start to fight on the last lap. And I was like, well, there is form for this sort of thing happening. I have been so incredibly lucky at this track previously, and I can't believe it. I'm pretty sure this has been scripted somehow.
Absolutely. The racing gods smile upon you today, Kyle. And it's fantastic to see you back up there, but it does mean you start from 20th position and what I like to call the carbon fibre zone for race 2. How do you think it's going to go up the Rouge in the first lap?
Well, I'll take starting 20th with a win in the feature race. A very lucky win, so very lucky boy. But it's going to be really tough up Eau Rouge. I mean, on lap 1 on cold tyres, it's really, really tricky. So I'll be quite cautious and feathering the throttle and trying not to rear end people doing likewise in front of me. So I don't know if I can maybe get into top 5. That'll be absolutely amazing. But I'd be happy with a top 10.
Fantastic, Giles. Great to talk to you again, and good luck in race 2. What a
Nice one.
first race.
Thank you.
It's a third consecutive feature race win at Spa for Kyle Power. Let's go through the results. So after a last lap collision and a post-race penalty for Gregoire Gomez, the most bizarre finish to an F3 Cup race you ever seen, it's Kyle Power with his first win of the season, it must be said. And Alex Johnsma and Tim Ellis on the podium with him as well. Stephen Williams and Alexander Dobertsberger. Danny Henney across the line in 6th place in the end. Callum McIntyre up in 7th. I think that's his best finish in the F3 Cup. With Alex Smith taking the silver class win and Mark Greenhow the gold win there in 9th place, with James Wingfield inside the top 10. Richard Spanners already there in 15th place, as you see. And starting on reverse grid pole for the next race with 20th in the feature race, it is James Caswell following that penalty for Gomez. Wow. And Luca Harrison there. Wow. 33rd place. That is not where we expected him to be. We're going to go and digest that for a little bit and take a quick break before the sprint race. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.